Hi, good morning, everyone. Teng Boo from Capital Dynamics. This week, my topic is going to be very different, and you should listen to it because it's something that most of us don't think about nowadays. But should it happen, the consequences are devastating for everyone. So, if you're curious as to what I'm referring to, because the title of my video says United States of America should be the first. What am I referring to? What am I talking about? And why is it so important? As usual, please share because it will help all of us. Give your comments and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. United States and Israel have been at loggerheads with Iran over the nuclear programs. They want Iran to be stripped of any nuclear capabilities. Is this correct? Let me strip away any propaganda, any politics. Let me just go straight to the key facts. Then I will share with you that what is at stake at this moment in time is more than just the US-Israel-Iran war, scary as it is for the global economy. On 6 and 9 August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki respectively. Hundreds of thousands of people died, most of whom were civilians. And this dropping of the 2 atomic bombs remained the first and the only use of nuclear weapons. In 1946, Bikini in the Pacific Ocean became the site of Operation Crossroads. This was an immense American military scientific experiment to determine the impact of atomic bombs on naval vessels. This was the world's first peacetime atomic weapon test that was conducted at Bikini on 1st July 1946. A 20 kiloton atomic bomb was dropped and exploded on about 80 warships, and the second test on 25th July was the world's first underwater atomic explosion. By 1947, the United States already has 13 atomic bombs in the nuclear stockpile. A year later, the United States had 50 atomic bombs, enough to destroy millions of people. As a matter of fact, in 1948, the United States had no competitors in nuclear weapons. By 1949, America's nuclear stockpile has surged from 50 to 170, enough to destroy a big chunk of the entire planet. The former Soviet Union exploded her first atomic bomb only on 29 August 1949. That was already 8 months after 1949. By 1950, the United States has 299 atomic bombs in the nuclear stockpile. At that time, the former Soviet Union has only 5. Nevertheless, the number of atomic bombs both countries have at that time was enough to destroy the entire planet. This was 1950. In 1952, the US detonated the world's first hydrogen bomb called Ivy Mike. This detonation produced a fireball that was 5 kilometers in diameter. Within 90 seconds, the mushroom cloud, the famous atomic bomb mushroom cloud, rose to an altitude of 17 kilometers. And within a minute later, it went to a height of 33 kilometers, eventually stabilizing at about 41 kilometers, and the diameter was 161 kilometers. This was an unprecedented weapon of mass destruction. By 1960, United States has 18,638 nuclear bombs. 18,000 over nuclear bombs. By 1967, United States of America has over 31,000 nuclear bombs, enough to destroy the entire planet many times over. China exploded her first atomic bomb only in 1964, and China was only the 5th country to do so, following the UK and France. So don't blame China. To quote Annie Jacobson, she wrote this book called Nuclear War: A Scenario. Why stockpile 1,000 or 18,000 or 31,000 nuclear bombs when a single one of them, the size of Ivy Mike, dropped on New York City or Moscow, would leave some 10 million people dead? Why continue to mass produce thousands of these weapons when the use of a single nuclear bomb will almost certainly ignite a wider, unstoppable civilization destruction nuclear war? Think. The first country to use atomic bomb in wartime is the United States of America on Japan. The first country to use atomic bombs in peacetime is the United States of America. These are facts. The US National Military Command Center beneath the Pentagon, which originally was called the War Room, was first conceived for the Pentagon in 1948 as a place for America to run the next World War. That was 1948. Since 1948, this command center has been in use 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, every day of every year ever since 1948. America has been preparing for a world war since 1948. Jimmy Carter, the only US president to complete his term without war, military attack, or occupation, has called his own country the most warlike nation in the history of the world. Like all US presidents since John F. Kennedy, an American president who is entirely underinformed about how to wage nuclear war when it happens. The president has no idea that as soon as he has been briefed on what is happening, the US president will have just 6 minutes, 360 seconds to deliberate and decide which nuclear weapons to launch in response. Think carefully. Imagine Donald Trump, who thinks he is God, is the American president. I'm not inventing this. The one on the left was the first AI-generated image of himself. He generated it himself. Then he was criticized. He took the image down on the one on the left-hand side. Within a day or two, he created the second one on the right-hand side. You can see the text inside his social media. He says, I was never a very religious man, but doesn't it seem with all these satanic, demonic, child-sacrificing monsters being exposed that God might be playing his trump card? So is Trump equal to God? He is the 47th President of the United States of America. The United States is not a civilization by any measure. The United States is merely a marauding empire. I believe that the US has absolutely no moral authority to tell Iran not to have nuclear capabilities. In fact, the first atomic bomb was built in Los Alamos, New Mexico, US during World War II under a program called the Manhattan Project. The first country that should stop producing, stockpiling, and having nuclear capabilities should be the United States of America. This is the country that started this mad, insane, civilization-destroying race in the very first place, back in the 40s. The next part, I'm going to share with you the horrors of nuclear energy, of nuclear weapons, the lessons, and our future, the future of every single human being on this planet. This video will show you the dropping of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. Please watch it because, I don't know, when I watch it, it sends chill down my whole spine.
I saw an aircraft, like a tiny silver drop, entering the sky above Hiroshima. I instantly recognized it as an American plane, as no Japanese aircraft could fly at that altitude at the time. It was just one plane, so I assumed that it was passing by as usual.
And I was counting 1, 2, 3.
I was wiping the desktop. That was when the bomb was dropped.
It took about 45 seconds from the time the bomb left the airplane until it exploded. And I think there wasn't a man in the airplane that wasn't either timing it with his watch or counting or doing something. I was sure the bomb was a dud. I was sure it wasn't going to work.
After falling for 43 seconds, the time and barometric triggers started the firing mechanism. A uranium bullet fired down a barrel into a uranium target. Together, they started a nuclear chain reaction. Solid matter began to come apart, releasing untold quantities of energy.
This video shows you the aftermath of it's almost the immediate aftermath of the explosion of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima.
But then came something that would forever change perception of the bomb. It started in the hospitals.
A mysterious illness began to spread. I noticed it from about the fourth day. Of course, it had been there all along, but I thought people were dying of severe burns.
The woman who lost her children in the fires, Shige Hiratsuka, and her husband were amongst those affected.
They lined my bed up next to my husband's and took his test first. When they had taken enough blood for the sample, they withdrew the needle. But the blood wouldn't stop. Nothing worked, whatever they did. Even when they applied pressure, it carried on bleeding. During this time, purple spots began breaking out all over my husband's body. He then vomited a large amount of brown liquid. Afterwards, he went limp and died an hour later. He had managed to survive that far, but then even he was taken away from me.
Her husband was one of thousands who would die from this new and untreatable condition.
They were rotting. It was necrosis. There were no white blood cells, so the blood had no power to fight against infection, and so suddenly the rotting set in. In the end, the hair would start to fall out. When you put your hand on the patient's head, tufts of hair would come away in your hand.
It emerged that those who were worst affected had been close to the hypocenter, or had swallowed radioactive material, like the people who drank the black rain.
In hindsight, we realized that it was radiation, but at that time we didn't know what it was.
Radiation sickness has become the single most disturbing legacy of the bomb. American scientists had always known the bomb would produce radiation, but the scale of the after effects came as a shocking surprise.
These are still photos of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, both in 1945. And these are photos of the realities of what it was like after the explosion of the two atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The popular narrative is that President Truman dropped the two atomic bombs on Japan to force Japan to surrender to make Japan end World War II. That is not correct. US government documents admit that the atomic bomb of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was not necessary to end World War II. Japan was already on the verge of surrendering, even without the two atomic bombs. The nuclear attack was the first strike in Washington's Cold War on the Soviet Union. It was sending a very clear message to the Soviet Union. I sympathize with the ordinary Japanese women, children, civilians who died for no good reason. This is another document based on detailed investigation of all the facts and supported by the testimony of the surviving Japanese leaders involved. It is the service opinion that certainly prior to 31st December 1945 and in all probability prior to 1st November 1945, Japan would have surrendered even if the atomic bombs had not been dropped, even if Russia had not entered the war, and even if no invasion had been planned or contemplated. America, the first country to use atomic bombs, killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people. On what pretext? Can the same thing happen again? Can America use a lame excuse, a false pretext, to drop atomic bombs or nuclear bombs on another civilization? Nuclear tests in the Pacific Ocean was so huge. This was the world's first hydrogen bomb that it destroyed the entire island. And the people there, the inhabitants, they were moved before the test was conducted. The natives who stayed there were not able to go back to the island for a very, very, very long time. 2026, nuclear weapons by country. Concentrate on those colored in blue, dark blue. United States and Russia. Those are the two countries that have got the most nuclear weapons. Russia 5,000 plus, United States 5,000 plus. China about 600, France about 290. So 80 years after the disaster, the tragedy in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, is the world seeing an escalating arms race, taking us further away from peace and nearer to mutual destruction. After Hiroshima, Nagasaki, we still have a world, we still have a global community that still pretends to be safe. Can we make that assumption? Trump has been threatening, making his apocalyptic promise that he will wipe out the entire civilization in Iran. So what is it about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? What is it about these two that have taught us about America's language of destruction, of annihilation? Can we see a repeat of that horror, the tragedy that happened decades ago? When can the United States become a civilization? Just to repeat, the first atomic bomb was built in New Mexico, United States. The first country that should stop producing, stockpiling, and having any nuclear capabilities should be the United States of America. Remember, this is the country that started this madness in the first place. When America does that, then the United States of America will be a civilization. Can America be one? If what I've shared with you does not shock you, does not frighten you, does not lead you to think carefully and deeply about what is the state of the world and what the US-Israel-Iran war can lead to, other than increase in oil price, shortages in petrol, increase in fertilizer, other than that, please read this book by Annie Jacobsen. It's a recent book. It's called Nuclear War, A Scenario. Very well written. Annie Jacobsen has written many excellent books. This is one of them. Read it, and I'm very sure it will scare the hell out of you. Have a good weekend ahead, and please remember to read and think about what is happening in the Middle East, what happened in 1945, and what can happen to us in the coming months, coming years. Bye-bye.